I've lived for many years in New Zealand, the country that's generally regarded as being the standard bearer for the fair treatment of First Nations. By comparison, Canada has a very long way to go. The Green Party recognizes the enormous injustices that are being perpetuated against our First Nations people. In order to provide justice, the Green Party will implement all of the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. In addition, we will honor the treaties signed by our ancestors, and, very importantly, we will make First Nations true partners in the government of our country. We will do this by creating a Council of Canadian Governments, modeled on the very successful Council of Australian Governments, to bring federal, provincial, and municipal leaders together with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit to foster cooperation in making decisions that affect all of us. First Nations are amongst the most politically active of all Canadians, especially when it comes to protecting the environment, such as protesting the Alton natural gas storage project in the Stewiacke area. For a Canada that works, we need First Nations to have a strong voice in Ottawa. The Green Party will work hard to ensure that this happens.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Mr. Morris?
Working with the First Nations is a team effort. And I want to first recognize that two of the most outstanding leaders in the Millbrook and the Member 2 communities came from Shubenacadie. And that would be the late Lawrence Paul, who did a fantastic job building up Millbrook, and Terry Paul, who continues in that role in Member 2. I think that the First Nations community could look to them to learn how to make it happen. I would like to work with Chief Kopich and the other chiefs from Cambridge and Glooskap to make that a reality for their reserves.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Mr. Curry?
Thank you. I had the great good fortune when I was younger to work on the Millbrook Reserve with a group of young people, and it was a real eye-opener. What a great experience for them and for myself. I also had the privilege of meeting at that time Mr. Noel Knockwood, who was the spiritual leader of the Mi'kmaq community and did a great deal to help them bring their spirituality back. Within the first 100 days of the NDP taking government, we will call an inquiry into murdered and missing Aboriginal women. It needs to happen. I was at a Sisters in Spirit vigil just last weekend on this very topic. It was emotional and eye-opening. It needs to happen. I agree that we need to bring in all of the recommendations from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Otherwise than that, and the fact that we obviously need to have equitable education and health standards on reserves in the First Nations.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. Mr. Bryce?
I agree with much of what Hugh and Will have said about the need to have an inquiry into missing and murdered Aboriginal women and to honor the commitments of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. But beyond that, we have to recognize one of the biggest issues is education. And only about half of on-reserve Aboriginal youth graduate from high school right now. And part of that is that there's a real gap between Aboriginal school funding and non-Aboriginal school funding in the same provinces. We would close that gap. We would commit $300 million per year in new funding. It would grow to $750 million by the end of our first mandate. It's a total of $2.6 billion. Now that is a lot of money. It's because it's a big issue. There's 400,000 young Aboriginal and First Nations youth entering working force age in the next 10 years in Canada. We've got to make those investments now. It's far cheaper to invest in their skills than to waste their talents.